Hi. Yes, you are on the right channel. This new look will be discussed at great length towards the end of this video. So stick around if you want the explanation. I will talk about it. Yes, there is a point. The theme of my video today is mistakes. As you can see, I have made plenty this week and we're going to talk about it. So buckle up, get ready to laugh, and to learn a little bit about making mistakes gracefully and just accepting the fact that that's part of being a human. This was one of those weeks where I tried to do things on my own because, different reasons. We all have different reasons for trying something different. And it did not go well every time. There are some things that went better than others, but I did try grinding my own flour this week to bake with. That is a big change that we are making in our family. I should say we're trying to make that change for our family, and it did not go so well this week. I also tried to trim my own hair, which I have done so many times in the past. I have cut my hair, I have trimmed my hair. I am the one that cuts my husband's hair. I have not had this kind of disastrous result ever. And the other thing that I have been trying very hard, not just this week, but as I am making some of these changes in how we cook, how we run our kitchen, how we live our lives, is trying to keep my kitchen clean, even though we're using it more. Because I'm using cast iron and wood a lot more instead of nonstick and plastic and things like that. And that means that I need to have my sink available to get those things cleaned up fairly quickly. So those are all things that we're going to talk about in this video for this week. Let's talk about the big one first. That is trying to grind flour here at home for our needs. This has come from a lot of research on our individual health problems like diabetes, insulin resistance, heart problems, PCOS, MS, cholesterol, you name it, we're probably dealing with it. And a lot of it, yes, is on us, and a lot of it is the ways that our bodies just do not work properly. So we are trying to control what goes into our bodies. And one of the things that I have been doing for a few years now is making our own bread. Because I found a loaf of bread from the store in our pantry one day, and it was probably 3 months old, and it looked exactly like it did the day that we bought it. There was not a speck of mold on there. There was no staleness. There was nothing had changed. And I know, because I had baked bread in the past, that it should mold very quickly. It should go stale very quickly. If bread lasts you a week, that's interesting. So I started baking our bread when we had it. We don't eat a ton of bread because of the things that I already mentioned: diabetes, insulin resistance, all those blood sugar things. But sometimes it's nice to have bread. Sometimes you want to have a sandwich and you can't if there's no bread around. So I had been making it myself from all-purpose store-bought flour. And then I kept doing some more research on things and found that flour is basically useless except to make the food itself. It's not offering any kind of nutritional value. And it's bleached, it's highly processed, they have added things to it to make it last longer. Apparently our flour should not last a year or more in our pantry in a container. It should last about 7 days. So that led me to a giant rabbit hole of research and learning about grinding my own flour at home. It's quite the endeavor, I will definitely say that, and this was our first week trying it. I have a lot of notes. I had some failures, I had a little bit of success, but I figured that would be happening. I'm not going to get into all of the educational details right now because this is new to me and I am still learning. However, the biggest thing that I learned was the mill that I purchased is a more budget-friendly option. It's a kind of tiptoeing into the process of grinding your own flour, and it is incredibly loud and takes a long time. The first batch that I did, I ground way too much. That was the first thing I learned. So I made multiple items with it, and I did not grind it enough. So all of my dough was very gritty. It was just, that's the only word I can come up with. It was gritty, and dough should not be gritty. It should be smooth and soft, and it just wasn't. It did rise for the most part. So it operated like it should have, but it did not turn out. I ended up making a loaf of bread, a pan of dinner rolls, and a cinnamon coffee cake. The coffee cake was good. It was a little weird. It had the consistency of cornbread, so not your usual coffee cake streusel texture, which is usually very light and fluffy and crumbly. It was not that. It was good. I think we ate a serving total. It was not great. And the bread and the rolls did not rise in the oven. They actually sunk in the oven and were not edible at all. So we learned there that we needed to grind the flour even more. So that evening I did another batch and I double ground the flour. The problem with that was it gets really, really hot. And I was concerned that the heat in the mill of the flour was going to degrade the flour and make it not work as well, or not have as much nutritional content. But there's really nothing I can do about that. I even let that mill sit for about 15 minutes in between batches of re-grinding, and it was still very hot. Too hot to touch the mill itself, in fact. And the flour came out very hot, and you could just smell hot flour. So I'm not quite sure what to do there. I do think it's gonna have to be milled 3 times per batch to get the consistency that I need. It's very time consuming. It's very loud. Very loud. So it's going to be a once a week opportunity, and do it when my neighbors are awake generally, because it sounds like a bandsaw running in my kitchen, and I know that other people can probably hear that. Not as loud, but it's a sound that travels. So we will be grinding flour 3 times and then trying to use it. One of the other problems that I've been having lately is I pull the bread out of the oven, whether it's home ground flour or store-bought flour, and it's not done in the middle. And you don't know that until you take it out, you let it cool, and then you cut into it, and it's all just dough right in the middle. So a friend for a long time messaged me and said, you need to get a thermometer that you can stick into the bread right into the middle and make sure that it's at the right temperature. So we got a thermometer. We're gonna try that this weekend when I do my actual, baking for the week. I would plan to do that on the weekend anyway, but I was trying to just test some things out this week. So that's why we had a weekday baking session, marathon. It was all day, but we learned a lot. We will continue to learn. I have watched more YouTube videos on bread making than I thought I ever needed to. And I had watched a lot in the past because I have been making bread for a long time. So we learned some lessons. We made a lot of noise. We made a huge mess, and we're gonna keep going. Keeping my kitchen clean has always been a problem for me, and it shouldn't be. Honestly, it's just, I am usually very tired at the end of the day, and I don't feel like cleaning my kitchen. I honestly hate doing dishes. It is my least favorite chore, and yet I have to do it. I was a food photographer for a few years, and dishes were constant. A lot of that time my husband was helping me because he did not have a job, and so he was my photography partner and assistant, and that included doing dishes. We do have a dishwasher. Not everything can go in the dishwasher. Not everything will fit in the dishwasher. It is an apartment, a very small apartment, and that dishwasher is small. Now, it's better than our last one, which was a half-size dishwasher. It was literally about 1.5 feet wide. It barely held anything, but again, it's nice to have the dishwasher. So I have been trying my hardest to be much better about keeping my kitchen completely clean, doing a nightly reset, trying to keep at least one of my sinks completely empty so that as I use cast iron and wood utensils and wood cutting boards, I can clean them quickly and easily, because they can't go in the dishwasher, they can't soak, they can't sit in a sink with other things. They just can't. They're a little more high maintenance. So I'm trying to clean a lot more as I go, keep things clean. I also have very little counter space, and so keeping everything clean helps with that. I do have an idea about that. You'll probably hear about that more later because I have to talk to my husband about it still. But that might be another big change that we make that will free up some counter space. We'll find out. But until then, it's just become more important to keep things clean. Not just clean in a sanitary sense, but neat, orderly, organized, put things away, keep the dishwasher going, empty it when it's done so that I can continuously fill it instead of filling the sink. And this is not about perfectionism or looking a certain way or an aesthetic online. It's about taking care of the things that I am choosing to use in my kitchen, which take a little bit more work than some of the things that I've used in there before. Honestly, that is one of the biggest outward reflections of the changes that I've been trying to make, is maintaining things, and I'm trying not to use the word consistent because that was my word for the year for years. And consistency and being consistent make me want to rip my hair out. But sometimes it is the right word for the sentence. So I'm trying to consistently keep things organized and moving so that I can cultivate these patterns and these new lifestyle changes easier. It's hard. I didn't think it would be easy. I'm not going for perfection. I had to let go of that a long time ago, and I have perfectionist tendencies in weird ways. It's not the everything has to be perfect, perfectly put away. I'm not OCD. I have to get 100 on a test. That's not me. My perfectionism is, okay, well, I didn't get it right the first time, so I'm just not going to do it again. I have an all or nothing perfectionist mindset, and I learned that from therapy and coaching and experience. And yes, it took me a long time to realize that. But I learned it, and I know that about myself. So trying to get these patterns changed at 41 years old takes a little bit of work, but it's okay. It's worth it. And if I want to have the lifestyle that I truly want to have, and if I want to make these changes this year going forward, and if I want to care for my family better, which is my husband and I can make these sacrifices of time and energy in order to have more time and energy later. That is something else that I have been really trying to work on with my mindset, is keeping my kitchen clean, keeping a sink empty, keeping on top of the dishes helps my stress level a lot. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw my video this week where I got up on Monday morning. There was no school, so I did not have a child to take care of. I take care of my niece before and after school. We didn't have school. It was a holiday, and we had spent Sunday with my in-laws, and we had finally gotten to do Christmas with them and meet our nephew, and we brought a lot of things home, Christmas gifts and things that my mother-in-law had for us. It took us 4 trips up the stairs to get it all in. And by the time we got everything in, got home, settled, we were exhausted. We were ready for bed. We get up very early, and we just left things everywhere. The whole apartment was a disaster. And I came out Monday morning and just said, I can't work until I clean this up because it's going to be super distracting and stressful for me. I do not care about clean houses. I should say, not clean houses, but cluttered houses. There's a difference between clean and cluttered. My home was cluttered. It wasn't dirty and unhygienic. I just needed to clean up all of the stuff everywhere. So I set up the camera and took video because honestly, for me, I love to go back and watch that and see progress and see hard work paying off. I know a lot of other people love to watch those videos because clean talk is a thing. And also, when I was doing food photography and I would do the time-lapse videos of doing all the dishes, which were a lot of dishes, piles of dishes, people love those videos more than any other because it's an instant gratification. It's motivation to do it yourself. It also shows you it doesn't take all day. It might feel like it, but it doesn't. And I love those videos, so I will make them quite regularly. But if you saw that, you saw that it helped my brain to just get that cleaning done, get the clutter out of the way. It really only took me about 15 minutes to pick up all the stuff, put it away, throw things away, get it organized, give it a home. It didn't take that long. But then I was able to focus my brain on work for the rest of the day. And that's important. Because if I hadn't, I would have constantly been getting up and seeing the things and just feeling gross, feeling very distracted mentally. My creativity would have been gone, and most of what I do requires my creativity. So I know that when I keep things clean and when I keep them neat and managed, I know in my head it's not going to take me as long to deal with it later. It's not going to be as stressful. So that's why we're trying to do that. If you're still here waiting for this hair story, we have arrived. Let's just say perimenopause and the luteal phase entered the chat on Wednesday night, and I was getting ready to take my shower. My hair had been bothering me all day because it's falling out like crazy because of perimenopause. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And it was really bothering me because the thinner it gets, the more it just lays on top of my head, and I hate it. And I know if I cut it shorter, it will have a bit more lift and body to it. It'll be easier to deal with for the most part, and it'll make me feel better. So the goal was to go from about here where it was under my collarbone a bit, to right about here, just barely touching my shoulder. That was the goal. As you can see, it's a little bit hard with the chair behind me, but I've got a couple inches before I get to my shoulder now. So I went a little crazy with the scissors, and this is what we have now. I know the chair behind me is a little hard, but it's short. It's very short. It has to be styled every day. I can't just throw it in a messy bun on top of my head like I normally would. That's okay. It really is. Thankfully, hot rollers came back into trend lately, and my hot rollers got here on Wednesday. So we're just gonna learn how to do this, how to deal with it. It's a very bad haircut, I can promise you that. It may not look like it from this, but if you see it from the back, it's real bad. And if I don't do anything with it, it just looks like Lord Farquaad. So we learned to keep the scissors put away because the mean girl comes out and she grabs them. So we're not gonna let the mean girl win anymore, because when I hit my luteal phase, when I hit PMS, the older I get, the more perimenopause takes hold, the worse it gets. My mood gets bad, my self-image is in the toilet, my energy comes and goes, but the mean girl comes to the surface, and we can't let her win anymore. We can't let her use scissors. We can't do any of that. So that's what happened with the hair. I cut it myself. Bad decision. I do not have any experience as a hairstylist. That is one thing I have never done, never been to school for. As you continue watching videos of my life and my story, you will see I have done just about every job imaginable. I haven't been a hairstylist. I've worked in salons as a massage therapist. I've worked in a salon as a receptionist. I have never been the one with the scissors in hand. Now, I do cut my husband's hair. It's a very basic military style haircut. I was trained on how to do that by a hairstylist many years ago. It's the only haircut I can give a guy besides just a buzz cut. And I do it because in 2020 we had to, and then we just figured out that it was a whole lot cheaper for me to do it than to pay someone to do his hair every 2 weeks. So I cut his hair. That's a totally different story. If I mess that up, we can just buzz it off and he doesn't care, and a week later it looks normal. For me, it's going to take about 6 weeks for this to get anywhere near normal, and then I'll probably have to go get it fixed if I want to keep it looking anywhere near normal. So that's the story of this lovely haircut that looks like I am stuck in the 50s or 60s. Not the worst era. Definitely high maintenance. This week reminded me that it's important to slow down and enjoy where we're at and really take in the lessons that are happening as they're happening. One of those things that I learned during the bread session was I need to stop multitasking as much when it includes something that I truly love and enjoy, which is cooking and baking. And to do that, I need to set aside the time for that so that I can enjoy it and not feel rushed and not mess things up because I'm rushing them. Let nature take its course and let food do what it needs to do. I burned dinner last night by accident for the second time in a month. Not because I didn't know what I was doing, not because I was multitasking, but because I wasn't taking my time, really paying attention. I was just trying to get dinner done. And through the course of trying to do the bread while working, while doing other things, I realized that when I do it that way, I am shorting myself on the joy of being in my kitchen. And that is truly one of the happiest places for me, is to be cooking and baking and feeding the people I love. My husband, my family, whomever it is. So I need to slow down. I need to be more intentional about that time. And I need to accept the lessons as they come. I need to do the same with myself. I need to give myself more grace. I need to be listening to my body and realizing that I am in a certain hormonal phase and not taking action on things that will have a lasting impact. And I also need to take the time to do the dishes, take the time to straighten things up so that I don't have to impede on my future joy by having to do them later when it's not convenient. If I'm already in the kitchen, go ahead and do the dishes. So if you follow me on Instagram, you're probably going to see plenty of cooking and cleaning videos because that's what I'll be doing. And they go hand in hand, and they both are important, and they both help add to the value of all of the things that we are trying to do around here. One of the biggest lessons learned is that no matter how old you get, you just keep learning the lessons. And if you don't apply the lessons that you've already learned, well, life gets more difficult. I should know not to cut my own hair. I should know that bread that didn't rise properly is not going to turn out okay. Other things are new things that I'm learning that will probably apply to multiple areas of life as well. I learned last week editing my video that I say an incredibly annoying amount of times, and that I move my hands around in my videos a lot. Yes, that is who I am. That is me naturally. If you know me in real life, if you do Zoom calls with me, you know that my hands are constantly moving. And if you have noticed in this video, I've been very careful about that because I don't want to be a distraction, but I'm also not going to completely limit myself. I do say a lot. That is something I've worked on for a long time. And when you edit your own videos and you spend 2 hours just removing the word from the audio, and it's still there anyway, you learn that it is time to be more intentional with your words, plan things a little bit better, still be yourself, but do future you a favor by trying to limit the number of times you say because it's not necessary. I'm glad you were here. I hope you got a little something out of this video. Make sure that you subscribe if you did. I love your comments. This was a video that I didn't really share a whole lot about things I used or things that worked well for me. It was more of a cautionary tale and just filling you in on how a week full of mistakes is still okay it's all right. We're going to be fine, and we're going to be better because we learned from it.